Welcome back to Wednesdays with Wilfred. This week we have a special guest returning back to the University of Manitoba, Dean of the Faculty of Education, three-time University of Manitoba alumna, social sciences and humanities researcher, Dean Dr. Karen Ragoonaden. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Ragoonaden. I'm just going to jump right into it. What are you most excited about being back at the University of Manitoba?
Well, I am thrilled to be back in Winnipeg. Winnipeg has always had a very special place in my heart. My family emigrated to Winnipeg and we were welcomed in St. Boniface. My family is originally from Mauritius, a small island in the Indian Ocean. My mom's Irish, so we grew up speaking English and French. And as my parents made their way through Mauritius, through England, and then through Ireland, it was great to land, in Saint Boniface and despite the fact that when we landed, it was April 1st, I think, and I still remember the snowflakes coming down, but I, grew to embrace winter. I grew up on a tropical island and really grew to embrace the winter. My favorite thing about coming back to the U of M is just, coming back to my old haunts, I guess. I have a master's in French literature, 18th century, I just want to add, very, very useful. I'm really excited to see the new buildings, the changes. I still remember walking from U-Lot, like parking my car for free at U-Lot and making that hike all the way to Fletcher Argue in -30. But I know that's not going to be the case now as I come back as Dean of the Faculty of Education. Just really, really thrilled to be here. Miss the great restaurants, miss the thriving art scene, the theater, the music festivals, the great cinema, the art galleries, and looking forward to getting to know my city again.
And congratulations once again. We're all so proud of you and excited. How do you think education has changed from when you were a student at Collège Saint-Boniface?
Collège universitaire de Saint-Boniface, oui, c'est ça.
Parle en français un petit peu.
Oh, c'est bien, c'est bien.
Can you speak about that experience and the transition as well?
Bien, pour commencer, le collège universitaire de Saint-Boniface, c'est maintenant l'université de Saint-Boniface.
Alors, oui.
So but it's fine because I think, as you said, that's representative of the enormous changes that have occurred in Manitoba. So starting with a move from l'Université de Saint-Boniface, which is the one French language university, outside of Quebec that is recognized across the provinces. Secondly, I think the University of Manitoba has really done a great job keeping up with the new innovations, the new ways of teaching and learning, the focus on research, for example. UM is a U15 university, and it is situated within that particular cache of universities across Canada. The faculty in education in particular, we are heading towards transformational change in regards to how we conceive teaching and learning, and how we represent who is teaching and learning and who we are reaching out. Last year's events, starting with George Floyd's murder, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with our focus on equity, with strong demands to end police violence towards equity-deserving populations, towards Indigenous populations, recognizing the erasures and the marginalizations and lack of representation, in particular in society and in higher education, has really come to the forefront of all our consciousness. So whether we are in higher education, whether we're in the K-12 context, or whether we're in society at large. I also think an important consideration for us as we're moving forward is in regards to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the calls to action 62 to 65 for education, in light of what we are learning about residential schools, the IRS system, the discovery of the undocumented mass graves of children. I think it is time for us now to gather together, to take our heads out of the sand, to not ignore what has occurred in history. And these are recognitions and realizations that have been part of the oral culture of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And as a faculty of education, decide together collaboratively in consultation with the NCTR, which is housed at the U of M, with the new Associate Dean of Indigenous Education of the Faculty of Education, Dr. Frank Deere, and surrounding communities, First Nation communities and other communities in Winnipeg. How are we going to move forward? How are we going to address equity? How are we going to address inclusion in contemporary society?
And you said it so beautifully, so eloquently. And in preparation to speak to you and all your accomplishments and all your accolades, you most recently this spring received the Teaching Excellence Award at UBC. So once again, congratulations. And I hear the passion and I feel the passion. I know this is our new virtual world. So eventually when things open up, I would love to hear more. In your award reception, you spoke about how transformational this period has been due to COVID and the impacts of students and learning. What has been some of the highlights and challenges that you have seen?
Definitely as we pivoted, to online learning in March of, 2020. Still remember the day, March 13th, when I realized that, and it was Friday too, Friday, March 13th, that we were truly pivoting, not just higher education, but our society, as a whole, all aspects of our society. I think that was really a moment for a reckoning, for all of us to really sit back and to think about how we were going to move forward with our respective jobs, consider our identities within this new society. I think in particular for students in higher education, this was a very difficult transition, and for students, in the K to 12 context as well. Moving from teaching is relational. Teaching is about connections. Teaching is about, being face to face with one another, being able to read, different facial expressions, to sense energies, and to have that removed, from that relation, and to have it being negotiated, by this computer, by this technology, was really a difficult transition for many students. I think as educators, and we are all educators in higher education, whether we're deans or associate deans or professors, our biggest challenge was how to create that community, how to reach out to our students, how to, share in this knowledge building and co-constructing these new ways of being and doing. And I know for many, this was not ideal. Questions of access came into play. For example, who has access, to the bandwidth to be able to support online learning environments? Who has the space, the quietude to be able to sit down and, as we were sheltering in place, to have an absolute space where this quietness, this clarity of mind, could come to play. And I think most of all, what the students missed was the graduation. We know that it wasn't enough, but we had to do it for the sake of the well-being, the health and wellness for our society. So I really want to recognize, the hard work, the determination, the engagement we all have, is particular within our collective humanity, to be able to see beyond ourselves and to look out for one another. And I think that, this looking out for one another, this ensuring that we are all going to be successful in this new pathways, really transcends, our own personal, professional identities. And hopefully we can work together to create a better place than where we were before.
I'm sure so many people are excited to hear more from you and interact and learn about your journey.
I'm looking forward to meeting alumni, for example. I'm looking forward to going beyond, the university, the campus as such, out into community, meeting people, looking at local and place-based environments. I mean, I would love to host the Dean's Lecture Series at the Art Gallery, for example. The WAG, I love the WAG. The top patio floor. Yes, in the middle of winter too, we can have tents and we can have heaters. We can do this. Or maybe, the human rights, the Museum of Human Rights, like, why not? Let's leave the campus. Let's reach out, to the great, dynamic, vibrant community that is Winnipeg.
That's fantastic. And let me know when these events are happening.
I will be in touch.
I will definitely be there. We're so excited to have you back, and we can't wait to see what you have in store for the UM community. On behalf of the University of Manitoba Alumni Relations team, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me and sharing all your knowledge and excitement and enthusiasm with our UM community. And we will definitely be in touch, and I'm looking forward to more collaborations.
Thank you, Wilfred. It's been a pleasure, and I have a lot more to learn. So.